What is going on? Hey everybody, welcome fellow roaders and choo-choos alike. I'm Joshua Thomas, one of the hosts and co-creator of the Fellow Road Express, and welcome to one of my first live theory crafting video for Final Fantasy VII Remake. This is going to be the first live stream that I've done in a very long time, so live streaming for YouTube has definitely changed a lot. It's gotten a lot better, and I finally have the upgraded equipment to be able to do this. So let's see here. Got two views going on here. So there's my second view where you guys can see where the action is going on. I'll just have this playing in the background as we discuss our topic today, which is going to be how are the remaining 4 characters of Final Fantasy VII going to join our party. And the reason I'm saying, how are they going to join is because we kind of know why. Oh, I hear some fireworks going off in the background. I was waiting for those to go off. I don't know if you can hear them, but there's some fireworks going off. A ball game just let out. So if you hear loud pops, that's what that is. And hopefully it does not wake up my daughter. Otherwise, I might have to pause the stream and come back to it. But let me get back on track here. So I'll give you guys a little bit of information about myself while more people are joining the stream. And feel free to leave a comment and I'll try and get to them when I can. I first played Final Fantasy way back in, it was either 1997 or 98. I didn't play it right when it came out because I didn't have a PlayStation, but it was one of those life-changing games, and it's hard to believe that a video game can be a life changer, but that's just the way it is. It's just one of those things where, at least for people like me who enjoyed really good action-oriented and story-playing video games, that it was a game changer for the gaming industry as well, and definitely a huge influence on my life. I started playing Final Fantasy games a lot more after that. And so when I had friends in high school and middle school, I would talk to them about this kind of stuff. So it wasn't sports for me or racing or anything like that. It was video games. So let me check something real quick here. Make sure our stream quality is good. All right. All right. Just let me know if you guys start to experience any bad stream quality. Anyway. So what our topic is going to be today is, I'm going to talk to you guys about what my theory is on how these characters are going to be joining us. Yuffie, Cait Sith, Vincent, and then finally Cid. And the reason I'm saying how are they going to join us is because if you've seen the end of Remake Part 1, which this is going to be massive spoilers for the original Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1, and possibly part 2, because we're going to be theory crafting as to what's going to happen in part 2, maybe even in part 3. So I'm going to give my theories on what I think is going to happen, or what I think could possibly happen, and then open it up for any kind of discussions to see what you might think as well. And the reason that I think this is good to talk about is because we are, at the end of Remake Part 1, they basically said, hey, look, this is going to be, we're opening this up to a brand new world here. They have undone fate. So you never know what could change from here on out. They did a really good job in part 1 of really expanding upon the original game, and now the ball's in their court to change things up, but still follow the course of the original enough so that the original fans, like myself, feel good about it, but at the same time we get this new experience that that was still going to surprise us and add something new to the story. So fireworks are really going off now. So if you hear those pops, that's what those are. So I am working on playing through the original Final Fantasy VII again. Haven't gotten to the parts where I get the 4 remaining characters after you leave Midgar, but I looked them up. I've also got the original strategy guide right here. So if I need to reference this at all, I can pull this in and we can talk about that. So the first thing we'll talk about is going to be Yuffie and Cait Sith. These two characters are pretty interesting because, Yuffie, you can get her at just about any point in the game as long as you are in a forest zone. She's just a random encounter battle, and as long as you answer the questions that she asks or give the right responses, she joins your party, and at the end, she hints that she's got some kind of devious plan in the works. And then Cait Sith, he's probably the weakest character. I think everyone agrees that he's their least favorite character, and for pretty good reason. He's got a very loose reason for joining the team, and it's pretty campy in the original. And I think as far as Yuffie and Cait Sith go, they are the ones that stand to be changed the most in terms of how they join the party. So right when you leave Midgar, as long as you can find a forested area, you can potentially have an encounter with Yuffie. And this is also an interesting fact too. Later on in the game, much later on, when you're playing as Tifa as your lead party member, or as Cid as your lead party member, there's the grand finale. You can also have encounters with Yuffie if she hasn't joined your party yet, and the interactions for Yuffie and Cid and Tifa are different than if Cloud is your lead party member. So the way that she joins your party is, I can actually look it up in the book here and just give you guys the lowdown. So finding Yuffie, you have your fight with her, you beat her, she's not that hard to beat, and then you interact with her and she says, "You spiky-headed jerk, one more time, let's go one more time." The answer that you respond with is "not interested." And now she's feeling cocky, so we get to another point where she says, "You're pretty scared of me, huh?" And then you answer ... petrified. So then she says, I'm really going to leave. Really. She acts like she's going to, just walk away from you. Then that's when you say, hey, wait a second. She says, you want me to go with you? That's right. And then she says, all right, I'll go with you. And your characters are walking away and they say, let's hurry on. And so those are your responses that you give, and that's in the original game, and you have Yuffie in your party. So for the remake, we all know that Yuffie's going to have her DLC in Intergrade, and let me make sure my stream quality is good here. All right. It's as good as it's going to get, I believe. All right, so I believe that in the remake, in Part 2, once we leave Midgar, and once they have the flashback to Nibelheim, I think that's how the video's gonna, I think that's how the game is gonna start. We're potentially going to run into Yuffie as early as Calm. A lot of people are theorizing that in order to kind of marry the two games and justify us having to start over with materia, that Yuffie's going to steal all of our materia in Calm, and we're going to have to chase her down in order to get it back, and then she's somehow going to join our party. That kind of makes sense. I don't know that the developers are going to do that. There's a possibility that she could steal something from the party, and that's going to be our first direct interaction with her. In Intergrade, it's going to show her seeing the main characters of the party, but all right. Let's see. All right, here we go. Sorry about that. Got a disconnection here. According to this, our stream quality is good again. All right, it says we're successfully connected. All right, I'm sorry about that. So anyway, hopefully this won't happen again. We're looking at, so if you're just joining us, we are talking about Yuffie and how she's going to join the party, and the possibilities of when she could join the party. She's got the most potential for the widest range of when she could join the party, because she can literally enter your party in any forest just about anywhere on the world map in the original. So I do believe that she is going to enter your party before you guys get to Junon, or right as you get to Junon. So regardless of whether we do meet her in Calm or she does steal from us in Calm, I think that at some point we're going to meet her. They could throw an Easter egg from the original in there and have us meet her in the first forest that we encounter. If that's the case, they're not going to give us that whole question answer thing or that response thing. They might do it in terms of having, giving her a point system like they gave Tifa and Barrett and Aerith, so that the choices you make with them alter the different scenes you'll see. So maybe they'll do a little bit of that with Yuffie. But I was getting into the point where I don't know that they will use her stealing our materia as a means of resetting, as a reason for why we're starting out with level 1 materia. I think they might just go ahead and start us off with a subset of materia that we might have gotten from Midgar. And the reason for this is, let's just say that Yuffie does just steal from the party in the very beginning, what happens when she rejoins us and we get that materia back? I mean, is that going to... Hold on a second. We're losing connection here again. All right. All right, here we go. All right, I'm going to assume that you guys can still see me. So hopefully I'll just do a wave here because it's frozen on my end. Let me see. All right, I can see myself waving on the other monitor. On this monitor, I'm frozen. So apologies for the delay there. So anyway, once again, as I was saying, if Yuffie steals our high-powered, maxed-out materia from the very beginning, and we get her before entering Junon, and we get all that materia back, all of a sudden we have this maxed-out materia, and we're less than a quarter or maybe a third of the way through Part 2. So why would she steal our materia, and why would we get maxed out materia that soon after starting basically a brand new game, even though it's a sequel? So I'm thinking that if she does steal our materia, it's going to be level 1 materia that the game kind of default starts us with, and therefore, you know, it's going to be difficult for them to justify her stealing this maxed out materia and then giving it back. So the theories here could be that maybe she loses it, maybe she passes it on to an operative of hers who's also from Wutai. The possibilities there are endless, but I think it would be more interesting if she did steal something from the party. Maybe it was our money instead. Maybe she was going to try and steal the materia, but she kind of flubbed up with that, and so she just kind of pickpockets one of us. We catch her, you know, she runs away. And there's the possibility that, and this is something I think would be really cool, and this is definitely going deep into the theory crafting. I think that we could possibly, let's say, you know, we've got to get past the Midgar Zalem. I think they're going to expand upon the Midgar Zalem heavily. I definitely still want to see the Zalem impaled on a tree by Sephiroth. But I'm wondering if the Zalem will be a mandatory boss fight. And it's still going to kick our butts. Like, it's going to be a losing battle, but something happens that allows us to either escape from the Zalem or scare the Zalem away. Maybe it's Sephiroth that scares the Zalem away. Either way, there's also the possibility that if Yuffie is also trying to get through the same areas to try and get to Junon and cross the ocean and get herself closer to Wutai, that what if she is in danger from the Zalem and we see that and we actually try to save her from it as well? And that is what triggers the boss fight with the Midgar Zalem. And for those of you who don't know, the Midgar Zolom is the giant snake that's kind of representative of the world serpent from Norse mythology. Oh yeah, and for those of you who have yet to read it, I've got the Norse mythology that inspired Final Fantasy VII. Pretty good read, and it talks about the links between the Midgar Zolom and the world serpent in Norse mythology. So it's really cool. But so yeah, there's the possibility that we could end up encountering her there, and if we do save her, that could then be when she joins the party, and I feel like that would be a much better reason for her to join the party. Like, hey, we've saved her life. She gives the money back or the materia back, whatever it is she stole from us, and she kind of feels that she owes us, but she's still going to plan on, you know what, I'll double cross these guys once we get closer to Wutai, or once we, if I can trick them into going to Wutai. The other possibilities are that, yeah, we still meet her early on, whether it's in a forest or in Calm or at the Chocobo Ranch, and we have to chase her. Maybe we spot her at Fort Condor, and then it's only at Junon where, in the original game, the party has to find a way to sneak up to the upper section of Junon. And so maybe Yuffie is stuck here as well. She can't figure out how to get above Junon. And so that's when we're able to surround her, and we perhaps will have a fight with her. She's going to lose. And that's when she gives up, gives back the stuff, and basically says, okay, I'll join you guys as, as me paying you back for stealing from you guys and inconveniencing your lives. So that's my theories as far as Yuffie goes. Be sure and leave a comment, and I can discuss that with what you think Yuffie will do, how you think she will join our party, and the interactions you think we'll have with her. I am definitely curious for the end of Intergrade or Intermission, her DLC, to see if there's any clues as to how she's going to do that. But if we, pay attention to the last trailer that we saw, the last trailer shows the very last bit where she's got the blood on her cheek. You can see this reflection in her eye. A lot of people are thinking that that's Vincent. I'm in the camp where they believe that's the plate fall that she's witnessing because of all the fire and stuff. I don't really see a reason for Vincent to be here this early on if they stick to the original storyline of how he joins. But the intermission with her could end just with her, screaming as, probably she's got Sonan's blood on her or someone else's. And I think that all right, I got another. No, we seem to be good. All right. All right, my stream quality is saying that it's poor, so just let me know in a comment if you are hearing me good, and if I've got any low latency. I'm still just getting a spinning bar on my streaming screen, but I can see on my other computer that the stream is continuing. So anyway, on to Cait Sith. Cait Sith definitely has the weakest reason for joining the party, and kind of the campiest reason. Basically, he's just he reads your fortune in the original, and he's like, wow, this is an amazing fortune. I've never seen anything like it. You know what? I need to join your party and see where this fortune leads. I need to see what it means. I need to see how it comes true. So and then, I imagine in my head canon that he just kind of leans in and he's just like, I will help you kill anyone you need to kill as long as I get to see how this fortune comes true. And let me read off the quote that is the fortune that he gives you. It is, what you pursue will be yours, but you will lose something dear. So in the original, Cloud is basically like, oh, hey, if you can, help find people, help me find Sephiroth. And so that leads to Cait Sith giving a couple of just generic fortunes. And then he, once again, the third and final fortune that he gives is, what you pursue will be yours, but you will lose something dear. And then, even the party, even Cloud and whoever happens to be with you at the time, they're just like, wait, what are you doing? You're joining me how? So Cait Sith has a lot of room for growth here. And I do think that he is going to be a playable character. Not like a support character who buffs other people's party abilities or like rides on top of Red 13. I think they're going to figure out a way to add Cait Sith riding on top of that Mog into your party, and somehow it's just going to work. So we can assume that, as a throwback to the original fans, they are going to have us meet Cait Sith in the exact same way. He's still going to encounter us. He's going to have this kind of really lame excuse for trying to join the party. He's going to read our fortunes. He's even maybe going to give us that same fortune that actually kind of wows Cloud and is like, wait, what? I'm going to find what I seek? But in the remake, Cloud and company, whoever happens to be with him at the time, they're just going to kind of just brush him off and be like, no, you're not joining us. Like, why would we let you join us? You're just this strange cat character riding on top of a Moogle. So what we can theorize here is, based on what happens in the original, I can come up with one or two ways that I think Cait Sith or Cait Sith or Ketshi, however you want to pronounce it, is going to actually join our party. I think they're going to be much more strategic. I think they're going to give us players, new players and classic players alike, a really solid reason, so that by the time Cait Sith is in our party, we're going to be like, okay, yeah, this cat creature can come with us. And I think that's going to have to do with what gets us put into the Coral Prison, which is at the base of the Gold Saucer. So in the original, after Cait Sith joins the party, we are still looking for Barrett. And so Barrett kind of runs off angry about himself and about some stuff that happens in his past, but we won't get too far into that. And then we happen upon the battle arena, where there are dead bodies everywhere, riddled with bullet holes. And the party is like, whoa, Barrett wouldn't have done this. Surely it wouldn't have been him. And then, of course, we are caught by, oh gosh, I forget his name, Duo or something like that, or Dio. Feel free to rage comment on the reason why I can't remember his name. But anyway, we're all caught at the scene of the crime, and then we're all thrown into Coral Prison. I think in the remake, Cait Sith is going to insert himself with us when we are accused of all these murders. He's going to encounter us again. He's going to also be shocked at finding all these dead bodies. And that's when he's going to get thrown down there with us. So we kind of have no choice but to further our interactions with him. we're still not going to let him join our party yet. We're still going to be skeptical, as we're still going to be like, no, you're just a fortune teller, you're not joining us. But then something's going to happen. He's going to help us out in some way or save a character's life while we're down there in the Coral Prison. Maybe it has something to do with the Dine and Barrett storyline, but that's what's going to allow him to gain our trust, and just then he becomes a part of the party. Maybe it has something to do with him getting us out of the prison. Regardless, that is how I think Cait Sith is going to join our party. So it'll be much more strategic, much more story-driven, and it's going to make a lot more sense than, oh, hey, I'm a fortune teller. I really think that fortune I gave you guys is interesting. I got to follow you guys and, help you in combat, killing monsters and human beings along the way until I see this fortune come true. So, and then, once again, Cait Sith's main reason for joining, his motivation for joining, is that Cait Sith is actually a puppet controlled by Reeve remotely, Reeve Truesti. And other than that, I believe Cait Sith's only really major contribution to the party is when he's able to sacrifice, himself, just this robot, in order to get the black materia, which is the Temple of the Ancients. And then another Cait Sith robot just shows up and is like, oh, hey, I'm the second Cait Sith robot here to join your party again. So I think that's going to be a lot better in terms of storytelling in the remake. I've seen what they've done with part 1, and I have full confidence that the creators and the producers behind the remake part 2 are going to justify this. And then, honestly, the Gold Saucer in general, I mean, who can't wait to see how this Gold Saucer is going to be? There's people theorizing that Jesse's going to be there. I don't know, maybe in the alternate Zack reality, which I think will be a major part of the game. But this is just a side note. I can't wait to see the Gold Saucer. It's going to be fantastic. So onward, we're going on to Vincent now. So the next character that we have the option of getting is Vincent, who, out of the 4 remaining characters, really has the best reason for joining the party, because he used to be a former Turk. He was betrayed by Hojo, sort of. I mean, his love interest, Lucrezia, she kind of voluntarily joins Hojo, but Vincent still blames himself because, hey, he was in love with her, and he feels like he had the chance to pull her away, to stop her from making this decision, and he didn't. He kind of chickened out, and then, later on, they do experiments on him as well. So, yeah, Vincent has really good reasons for hating the Shinra Corporation, hating Hojo, and just wanting to seek revenge. The way that he joins the party initially in the original, number 1, he's an optional character, and he first you have to, he's in the Shinra Manor in Nibelheim, which is Cloud and Tifa's hometown, and the crazy thing is he's actually in that coffin supposedly the entire time they're living there. So the entire time Tifa and Cloud are living there in Nibelheim, Vincent is also there, unbeknownst to anyone. But in the original game, you go there, it's like a haunted mansion kind of thing. You find the combination to the safe that's in the one of the upstairs rooms. You unlock it. You fight the boss, the missing number, and then you get the key and the Odin materia, and you're able to pardon me, you're able to go down into the basement, and that key unlocks the door that leads into his room. There's lots of coffins in there, and he is sleeping, having his nightmares in one of the coffins. So if you saw my other video theorizing about where the Remake Part 2 is going to end, I believe that it ends in Nibelheim, coming from just a sheer amount of story that they can add to the game. I break down, here's how many different locations and story elements were in Remake Part 1, and my theories of the Remake Part 2 story elements lead up to Nibelheim being the closest place I think that they can logically end the game at. A lot of people think it'll be the Temple of the Ancients, which is another great place where they could potentially end the game for Part 2. It would make a lot of story sense, but you have to get so much further in the game in order to make it to the Temple of the Ancients that I'm not certain that they will be able to fit all that into Part 2 in the time frame that I'm hoping that it comes out. I really hope Remake Part 2 comes out sometime late next year in 2022. But I could be entirely wrong. If it comes out in 2023, which a lot of people are theorizing, then maybe I could see them making it to the Temple of the Ancients and us having all 4 characters. But as it stands, I think they might pull a Red 13 if we ended in Nibelheim, where Vincent only joins the party as a guest character. Nevertheless, it would be pretty badass if there was some similar means with which Vincent joins our party. Of course, just like Yuffie not being an option in the remake, Vincent also will not be an option. I mean, they're both such important characters and well-loved characters as well. So in the original, we meet him in this underground chamber with lots of coffins. We talk to him about Sephiroth. That's the conversation that we have with him. And then he hops back in his coffin after the conversation and is like, well, now I'm going to have even more nightmares based on what you've told me. I have even more sins that I have to account for. And so you go back, you talk to him again, and you ask him his name, and that's when you get to name him. And then after you attempt to leave the basement area of the mansion, that's when he pops up and he says, "You're going after Sephiroth? Do you think you'll see Hojo too?" And the party's like, "Yeah, we'll probably see Hojo too." And he's like, "All right, I'll go with you." His motivations, and you can see this so much in Dirge of Cerberus and the compilation of Final Fantasy VII, he has got one of the best reasons for joining the party out of many of the other characters. So I'm theorizing, now here's 2 different theories. There's the possibility that he could join in the exact same way that he did in the original video game, which if we look at our first 5 characters, Cloud, Barrett, Tifa, Aerith, and Red 13, they join the party in almost the exact same ways as in the original game. Red 13 is the only one who's a little different in that he just becomes a guest character, and then they also have that expanded upon Hojo's laboratory, the drum area. But if they end the game Part 2 in Nibelheim, then we can expect that Nibelheim and the Nibelheim reactor will be heavily expanded upon, but not expanded upon quite enough. So the possibility that we could meet him in the coffin room, we could have a very similar interaction with him, but instead of him acting like he's not going to join us, everyone knows at this point, even players who haven't played the original, they probably, a lot of people say, well, one thing I do know is that there's a bad guy named Sephiroth. They probably also recognize Vincent as well, so they might just have him join our party right away once he finds out that Hojo, is still out there causing more trouble, and that we're probably going to encounter Hojo. There are alternate theories that state that he might join us way earlier, that he's actually not going to be in the coffin room, that he's going to be out prowling. Once again, a lot of people are theorizing that they saw Vincent's shadowy form in Yuffie's eye in the last trailer for Intergrade. I don't see a reason for him being there. I really don't see a reason for him being there, but when Intergrade comes out, we'll see what happens. I tried to theorize on areas that would make sense for him to appear, and Hojo's going to be at the beach in Costa del Sol, but I don't know that Vincent is going to be tracking Hojo yet, but that would make sense. That would kind of give a good interaction with Vincent and the party, because they all see Hojo. It's going to be strange. I don't know how they're going to pull off Hojo being at the beach, or if they're even going to pull it off at all. So we'll see. That's the very loose theory about how Vincent could potentially join the party. But and so let's assume that part 2 is going to get all 4 characters involved. So Vincent will join our party by the end of Nibelheim, and then the next place we go to is Rocket Town, where we meet Cid Highwind. So the whole reason the characters even interact with Cid, they even want to talk to him, is because they want the tiny Bronco, and the party wants to use it because they need to get to this other continent or this island area much faster. Rufus Shinra and his party also show up in Rocket Town seeking to use the tiny Bronco as well, for the exact same reason. They have realized that they've been going in the wrong direction, and they want to take it and use it to find Sephiroth as well. And of course, to that end, to both parties, Cid is like, hell no, I'm not doing this. This is, Shinra's already taken enough away from me. You're not taking the tiny Bronco as well. So the way the party meets Cid initially is they meet him in the rocket. We have the flashback about how he had to abort the rocket due to one of his scientists being in the wrong part of the rocket while it's about to go off. And man, oh god, what was her name? You guys are going to kill me for not knowing her name. But we'll call her or she. But she, even in the flashbacks, is just so submissive. And even in the flashbacks, before all this horrible stuff happens to Cid, Cid's kind of a jerk. I mean, he's a jerk to her, and he, in the present, treats her even worse. Like, he doesn't physically abuse her. Everyone says Cid's an abusive guy. He doesn't physically abuse her. He does boss her around and just make her overall feel like she's a worthless person. And he kind of gets off on that. He's just like okay with living that way. And in the original, I think the party is taken aback by his abrasiveness and his attitude, but they never really do anything to stop him from being that way, or they never really shun him. And in the end, the party goes and fights Palmer, of all people, as a boss fight. and the party has to jump on the tiny Bronco because Palmer has already started it, and they've got to try and figure out how to fly it, and they end up, Sid sees the tiny Bronco flying, and he runs and leaps onto it as well, and the Shinra soldiers try to shoot it down, and it crash lands in the ocean. And in the OG Final Fantasy VII, it's just kind of like this funny, oh, well, I guess we're all stuck together. Hey, mind if I join you guys in trying to get back at Shinra? And Cloud is just kind of like, well, sure, you're one of us now. And so if they keep Sid as the same kind of character that he was in the original, which I don't see why they wouldn't, his mouth could give part 2 or part 3, depending on when he shows up, like an M rating. I mean, he cusses like a sailor. In the original game, it's bleeped out as just random characters, but what are you going to do? Have him censored where all you hear beeps whenever he talks, whenever he cusses? I don't think that's going to happen. But anyway, so when we first meet Sid in the remake, if we meet him in the same place that we met him in the OG, it's going to be in Rocket Town. This is going to be so different. I think the women in the group, so keep in mind we're going to have Aerith, Tifa, and Yuffie in this group by now, which by now will also have 8 people traveling along with us. So how are they going to show those scenes? Are they just basically going to have a few characters in a scene at a time? Are they going to have justified reasons as to why the other characters aren't in those cutscenes or in the story element scenes? That's going to be interesting to find out. Or is it going to be party-based, where whoever's in your party at that time are the main characters of that scene, plus maybe the essential characters who need to be in that scene for the story? I would have to say probably not, because that would entail having to write multiple branching scripts and recording all sorts of dialogue that has the potential to not be used. So why would they do that when they could just go ahead and tell one story and have each of those characters there and to say their lines? That's gonna, aside from the secret scenes based on Cloud's choices, I think they're going to stick solidly to that. But is there going to be a good reason for why some of the characters won't be there? Could it happen that the party gets split up somehow? And if so, who will they have in that area? Because keep in mind, if they do the OG thing, we're going to have 8 characters jumping onto the tiny Bronco instead of 3. Whoever the 3 people in your party are, one of them, of course, is going to be Cloud. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. But either way, I think they are going to do something along the lines with the tiny Bronco. I am curious to see if they have this kind of world map thing. Nevertheless, if we end up flying around and Sid hops on board, which that's going to be crazy as well, and we crash land in the ocean, I think in the beginning the party is actually going to shun Sid. They're going to, especially the female characters, and they're going to basically reluctantly invite him into the party because, hey, they've got the tiny Bronco and they need to get over to this island where they can find the Temple of the Ancients, and this once airborne vessel, now just a flimsy sea vessel, is the only thing they're going to have. So, and Sid is going to have to go through some character growth in order for the party to fully accept him. Nevertheless, at that point is when he's going to become a playable character. So I think if part 2 goes all the way to the Ancient's Temple, then perhaps Vincent and Cid will both be playable characters. I can see that happening. But I could also see them kind of postponing Cid, once again, possibly making him a guest character as well, in that same vein, because the party is kind of like, hey, look, we kind of don't like you. You're just here because we need you. Like, we don't have a choice. But as soon as your usefulness is done, you can just go about your way. So, nevertheless, some kind of interaction will happen where they realize, okay, we've got no choice but to have this salty guy in our party. Now, alternate theory, and I'll wrap this up. Alternate theory for Cid joining, if they want him to join earlier in part 2 and actually be a playable character in part 2, in my part 2 that ends at the Nibelheim reactor, then we're going to need to meet Cid earlier. And it would make sense that they wanted all of the characters to be introduced by part 2, but depending on whether they have 3 or 4 parts to the game, maybe he won't be playable until the 3rd part, and we won't get to see him for another 3 or 4 years. But we've seen in Sonon that they are working on his moveset. Sonon definitely represents the Lancer that Cid is, and we definitely see some similarities in his moves from Advent Children, where he uses his lance to throw characters upward. So let's assume that they plan to introduce Cid much earlier on in Remake Part 2. The most logical place where they could introduce him would have to be, I would say, Upper Junon. And this is because we know that Shinra has an air force located at Junon. I don't believe the High Wind is there in the beginning when we first go to Junon. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But what if the High Wind is there when we go to Junon for the first time? And what if we meet a Cid who is there to confront Rufus or Heidegger or Palmer about, having his space agency basically put on hold and having the High Wind taken away from him? We might be able to witness the scene in which they tell him that the High Wind is being taken away, that they're basically confiscating it and he can no longer use it. Just go back to Rocket Town and just live the rest of your days in Rocket Town. That would be the most logical point for him to join the party earlier than how he joined in the remake. So, pissed off Cid, we meet him. We don't realize how much of a salty dog he is yet, because we're all just like, yeah, down with Shinra. Yeah, you want to join us? You hate Shinra? We hate Shinra too. So, hey, we're going to sneak on this boat. You're trying to get back to Rocket Town? All right, we'll take you back to Rocket Town. And so that could be how Cid joins as well. I'm going to end it there. I'll switch over to, I know I've been on my big camera. I'll switch over here and let you guys take a look at the beautiful artwork and rendering, aside from the flower textures, So yeah, those are my theories on how the final 4 characters could possibly join us in Remake Part 2. Once again, these are just my theories. The chances that any of the offshoots, aside from what I mentioned, happened in the original, of them coming true, is very slim. But it is fun to theorize, and the game creators definitely want us to theorize. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. be sure to like and subscribe to the Felroad Express if you want to see more of this. We do board games and video games, and I'm going to come up with more theory videos involving Final Fantasy. Some I'll try to do live, and hopefully we'll have much better success with the next live stream. I'll make sure I do some adjustments and read up on what I need to do to increase my connectivity. Because right now we've been good for most of this time since we had that one hiccup and I had to reconnect. So yeah, I'm planning more. Be sure to give me a comment and let me know what you think is going to happen with these next 4 characters. Let me know how far you think part 2 is going to go, how you think your favorite character is going to join, and yeah, thanks for watching the Felroad Express, and I'll check you next time.